So let's go back to Tim Russert's death, circa 2008. This has a profound effect on you, right? You see all of these people coming to say the most amazing things to him that he never got to hear. So what else crystallizes for you there?
Well, that was one of 3 or 4 that came right at me, and it followed a real memory of my 50th and the fact that, oh my God, I'm going to make 70. I think those compounded it. The 70th experience in which I wrote the book, I spoke about the book. People wrote me about what the message had meant to them because the book was structured in 3 ways. One is, how did I come up with this idea? Where did it come from? It's absolutely unbelievable to me. And now I'm seeing more research come out because mental health is becoming so much more of an issue. They're now coming out with studies that are done 5 and 10 years ago about the power of gratitude. Makes you feel better. It's less depressed. And none of mine was based on any study. It was all experiences. So the feedback I got from the speaking on the subject matter really elevated my appreciation of the power of the message. And it has been gaining. And then really a decade after the book was published, it still had legs. I heard from a girl in the Philippines who had picked the book up in a library. And she wrote me an email and she said, I just wanted you to know I was thinking of killing myself. First of all, I had no idea how the book was in a library in the Philippines, but she said I had been abused in my family and I was so angry I wanted to end it. She said, but I saw it and I read your book and I realized there are a number of people who have actually helped me in my life. And how can I forget that at this moment? We had 1 or 2 exchanges. A decade later, I heard from her. She's married, living in, I think, Denmark or Sweden. And there are many of these stories, but it elevated to me the importance of thinking about maybe there's a more powerful way to do it. Most of my life has been spent one-on-one in small groups. All my mentoring is one-on-one. All my small groups is 12 people or less. My conference business was 25 people or less, typically. The book was the first time that I've influenced thousands of people. And during the pandemic, I thought, oh, this is going to make this group get together end. And I actually was having a conversation with my son. He said, you could do it by Zoom. I said, really? And so 3 days later, we did the first of the living tributes. He insisted on using me and brought my mentees together. And that evolved into what became the Say It Now movement today. And this may be my biggest legacy.
How does a person go about doing this?
Well, first of all, this is not a business of mine. I invest in it. There's no royalties, there's no rewards, there's nothing. So this is, I want to make it really simple. This is not complicated. Once again, I will tell you, of the thousands of stories that I've heard over the years, I've never heard one that the person said, I'm sorry. I just got a card from someone this past week. He sent me, he said, I just want you to know you inspired this. The card was printed 70 for 70. And he proceeds to say, he has written to 70 people on his 70th birthday. He outdid me. So I dropped him a note, asked him what the experience was like. Very similar experience. Oh my God. It was so easy to do. It felt so good. It reconnected me with people at levels I haven't been at. It's not complicated. There were short notes to each of those people. And I say it doesn't matter how, but it does matter now. I recently came across the book. It was an interview. It wasn't a book. An interview by Hadley Vahos. Vahos, I believe, is she is a hospice nurse.
Hmm.
She just wrote a book called In Between. And in it, they asked her the question, if you had an ideal death, what would it be like after you see these people who have had these for months before they die? And she said, well, for me, I would want people to come to me and tell me that that I mattered before I died, right when I was dying. I'd like to hear that. She said, I was with these people for 6 months before they died. Their central word was, I don't matter to anybody. Then she would go to the funerals of these people and hear the tributes that are paid to the person who's dying, who feels unloved, unappreciated, unacknowledged.
Hmm.
So what I decided was, in some ways, we have to unlearn this idea that what is customary, you have to unlearn. Celebrations of life are great for some things. Memorial services are great, but they're not for paying tribute to somebody who's been important in your life. Those are not the moments for that.
Why do you think we do that, Walter?
Custom.
But is there some level of discomfort we have? I mean, when you say it this way, it's so obvious, right? Like there's nothing you're saying right now that anybody listening to this would go, no, that doesn't make any sense. We should absolutely let those people in hospice die thinking that they didn't matter and wait till they die to tell a bunch of other people how important they were. You know, again, when you state it that way, it sounds ridiculous. But there must be some reason that this custom has stuck. And it's wonderful that you're going to shatter that. But as I even examine my own life and I think of these people in high school, in college, at all stages of my life who mattered, it's clear to me that most of them might not realize it now.
Right. I was with a limousine driver and he was asking me, he said, what do you do? And so I told him the story. He said, oh my God, my immediate thought goes to my basketball coach. Now he must have been in his 40s. That guy taught me so much about life and about playing. It wasn't about the game. I said, well, is he still alive? Yeah. Maybe you should connect with him. Next time he picked me up to go to the airport, he said, I got to tell you something. I met with my basketball coach. I said, what was that like? I always loved this. I get psychic income out of all these stories, right? He said, I called him. I said, Coach, I haven't seen you in a long time. I'd like to come see you. Sure, come on. So he comes and he says, I'll see you on the basketball court. So the young fellow says, Coach, I didn't come to play basketball. What'd you come for? I said, I need to have you sit down on the bench. I want to tell you what you mean to me. Change their lives. So the reason that I think it's a little hard is because not too many people are modeling that this is the way to do it. So I thought strategically, what we should really do is teach younger people about doing it. They don't have to unlearn anything. So my major thrust this past year has been to educate young people, and there are teaching materials now. I think we're in 38,500 classrooms around the world. And so 75 different countries. So it is a global
This is
movement.
what type of classrooms? High school?
They're primarily 5th through the 12th grades, and they all have materials on practicing Say It Now. And so that's where it's starting, because they're going to go home, tell their parents. I got a note from Joanne in Ontario, Canada, a fellow Canadian, and kindergarten teacher who had been so committed to her profession. But during the pandemic, it was so tough. And then when she went back to school with these kindergartens, where it was their first experience, she introduced Say It Now to kindergartens. And she writes and she said, one child chose to express what I meant to her by doing a drawing. And she told me what the drawing meant and why she appreciated me in the drawing and how she helped me learn how to sing and why that made a difference. This is a kindergarten. So my hope I set a goal for 1 million expressions of gratitude by my 85th birthday, which is next month. We crossed 1.4 million.